The cards never lied, and neither did Pedro Alvarez's instincts. Tonight, someone would lose everything. Pedro Alvarez was a legend in the underground gambling world. A master of deception, an expert in reading opponents, and a prodigy with numbers. He had built his fortune from the betting tables of bars, illegal joints, and even high-end casinos. It wasn't just skill that brought him success, luck always seemed to favor him. No matter how high the stakes, Pedro always came out on top. For years, he moved from one place to another, amassing wealth, making enemies, and earning the admiration of many. He had taken down self-proclaimed gambling kings, outwitted professional cheaters, and made a name for himself as an unstoppable force in the gambling underworld. But one fateful night changed everything. Pedro walked into a place he had only heard of in whispers, the Crimson Lotus, an underground casino run by a man known only as Reyes. Unlike other casinos, where money was the currency, Crimson Lotus was infamous for betting things beyond cash, assets, lives, and even souls. Pedro had been warned, but the thrill of challenge and the allure of danger were things he could never resist. The game was poker. High stakes. Powerful men. Dangerous faces. But Pedro, as always, remained unfazed. With every hand, he watched, calculated, and played to perfection. Reyes himself joined the table, confident that no one could outplay him in his own establishment. But as the game stretched on, Pedro's pile of chips grew, while Reyes dwindled. The once smug leader of the Crimson Lotus turned red with anger. Pedro had cleaned him out, taking millions in a single night. A deadly silence filled the room as Pedro stood to leave. He could feel the burning gazes on his back, but he had done what he came to do. He had proven, once again, that he was untouchable. Or so he thought. The next night, as he returned to his high-rise apartment, he sensed something was wrong. The door was ajar. He hesitated for a split second before stepping inside. That was his mistake. The last thing Pedro saw before the world went dark was the silhouette of a man standing in the shadows. Pedro woke up to excruciating pain. His wrists were bound, his head throbbed, and his body was bruised. He was inside a dimly lit room, the air heavy with the scent of sweat and blood. Before him stood Reyes, his expression one of controlled fury. "You think you can humiliate me in my own house and walk away?" Reyes' voice was calm, yet deadly. "No one takes from me and lives to tell the tale. But you're special. You're valuable." Pedro struggled against his restraints, but the men behind him tightened their grip. Reyes continued, "You're going to make up for what you took. You will gamble for me. You will win for me. And if you try to run, well, let's just say I'll make sure you never hold a deck of cards again." Pedro clenched his teeth. He had no choice but to comply. Under Reyes' watchful eye, he was taken from one high-stakes game to another, forced to win for the Crimson Lotus. The winnings were immense, but none of it belonged to him. He was nothing more than a pawn, a tool for Reyes' greed. But deep inside, Pedro never lost hope. He studied Reyes, his operations, and the men around him. He memorized their habits, their weaknesses. He knew that one day, one game, one perfect moment would come where he could turn the tables. He just had to wait. And then, the moment arrived. A grand tournament was being organized, one that would bring in the most dangerous gamblers from around the world. The stakes were life-changing. And for Pedro, this was the only chance he had to take back his freedom. As he sat at the table, cards in hand, he cast a glance at Reyes, who smirked confidently from the sidelines. Pedro took a deep breath. It was all or nothing. To be continued.